World War II is often remembered for its epic battles, iconic leaders, and pivotal moments that changed the course of history. But behind the surface of this extensively chronicled battle is a history shrouded in secrecy, clandestine activities, and lost tales that profoundly influenced how the war turned out. Silent wars were fought in the shadows using espionage, encryption, and underground resistance activities outside of the front lines and well-known events. Unexpected alliances were formed behind closed doors, and technological advancements altered the modern world. Propaganda affected entire nations, and women worked as secret agents. There is much more to the real tale of World War II than what is presented in history textbooks. By revealing these hidden components, 1. The influence of cryptography and espionage on the war. Secretive to the public eye throughout World War II was the crucial role that encryption and espionage played. Secret code cracking and calculated deceit were hallmarks of the high-stakes intelligence battle fought by the Allies and the Axis forces. The war is now credited with having been shortened by the breakthroughs made by British cryptographers, especially at Bletchley Park. The most well-known of them was the deciphering of the German Enigma code, an encryption that the Nazis thought could never be cracked. The Allies were able to intercept German military communications thanks to the early computers that Alan Turing and his team constructed to break Enigma. The Allies were able to foresee and oppose Nazi tactics, such as army movements and naval warfare. Deceptive operations such as Operation Mincemeat, in which British intelligence hid documents on a corpse to mislead Nazi soldiers about the impending invasion of Sicily, were also part of the intelligence war. 2. The Balkans and Africa, the forgotten fronts. Even though discussions of World War II typically center on the fronts in Europe, the Pacific, and the Eastern Theater, several of the war's lesser-known theaters had a big influence on the final result. Allied and Axis forces fought crucial engagements in the North African campaign, for example, as they fought for control of colonial lands and key locations in the Mediterranean. Under Josip Broz Tito's leadership, the partisans in Yugoslavia put up a strong fight against the occupation of the Axis. By entangling Nazi forces, their guerrilla warfare strategies diverted resources from other fronts that were equally important. Resistance fighters and colonial troops shaped the course of the conflict in Africa. They nevertheless played a significant role in reducing the strength of the Axis and extending the reach of the Allied powers. 3. Science and technology's effects beyond the atom bomb. The atomic bomb is frequently the first thing that comes to mind when discussing scientific achievements made during World War II. But the war also brought about less well-known, but no less important technological advancements that influenced the war and the post-war world. Gave the Allies the ability to identify approaching aircraft and submarines with previously unheard-of precision. This proved crucial at pivotal times, like the Battle of Britain, when radar alerted the Royal Air Force ahead of German bombing missions. The creation of innovative medical treatments was another significant breakthrough. By treating infected wounds, the antibiotic penicillin, which became widely available during the war, saved many lives. This was a watershed in the medical community and greatly influenced post-war healthcare. The war propelled aviation forward by bringing in jet aircraft, such as the German Messerschmitt Me 262, even though it was too late to prevent the war from ending. 4. Women's covert contribution to the war effort. Although women's activities in factories and as medics are widely recognized as significant contributions to the war effort, their participation in covert operations is still an obscure aspect of World War II history. Often at tremendous personal risk, women performed vital roles in intelligence work, resistance activities, and espionage. Women worked as spies, couriers, and codebreakers for the Office of Strategic Services (OSS), the U.S. agency that preceded the CIA. For similar reasons, women were recruited by British intelligence organizations, especially the Special Operations Executive (SOE). Women whose bravery and intelligence made significant contributions to the Allied cause, an American spy who worked with the French resistance, and Nancy Wake, a British SOE agent who became one of the Gestapo's most wanted. These women, who frequently worked beneath the radar and got little credit for their achievements, their experiences shed light on an important yet frequently disregarded aspect of World War II. 5. Hidden diplomatic discussions and unlikely coalitions. The course of the war was continuously being determined by covert diplomatic discussions and unusual alliances, even as the Allied and Axis forces engaged in fierce military battle. The alliance between the United States and the Soviet Union was among the most unexpected. In spite of a long history of hostility and profound ideological divides, the two countries formed an essential partnership in order to defeat Nazi Germany. Leaders such as Winston Churchill, Franklin D. Roosevelt, and Joseph Stalin met in private during major conferences such as the Yalta Conference 1945 and the Tehran Conference 1943. They laid the foundation for military strategy and post-war territory accords. In an effort to keep neutral nations like Turkey and Spain out of the Axis, prevented the Axis forces from acquiring new allies. 6. The unspoken costs of internment of Japanese Americans. The internment of Japanese Americans in the United States is one of the more sinister and frequently overlooked parts of World War II. Executive Order 9066, issued by President Franklin D. Roosevelt following the attack on Pearl Harbor, permitted the incarceration and evacuation of nearly 120,000 Japanese Americans, many of whom were citizens of the United States. They were taken from their homes and forced to live in camps in far-flung parts of the nation. The stated purpose of this was to stop sabotage and espionage, although there wasn't any proof to back up these claims. The main causes of the internment and civic liberties were taken away from families. Numerous internees encountered challenges in reconstructing their life post-war as a result of the economic and psychological consequences of their confinement. Even while some Japanese Americans made valiant contributions to the armed forces during the war, especially in the 442nd Infantry Regiment, the injustice of their internment remains a dark and terrible part of American history. This approach had long-term effects that went beyond the war, as it took decades for the U.S. government to admit its error. 7. The impact of psychological warfare and propaganda. In addition to being waged on the battlefields, World War II was also fought in the minds and hearts of both troops and civilians. Throughout the conflict, propaganda was vital in forming public opinion. Nazi Germany produced films, lectures, and posters that praised Hitler's leadership and advanced the Nazi doctrine of racial superiority under the direction of Joseph Goebbels' Ministry of Propaganda. The Japanese government employed propaganda, often portraying kamikaze operations as acts of extreme patriotism to foster in its people a spirit of sacrifice and allegiance. Not that the Allies didn't try their own propaganda. The U.S. Office of War Information (OWI) created patriotic newsreels, movies, and posters to inspire people to support the war effort. In psychological warfare, dissident operations were also conducted within the ranks of the enemy. For example, the Allies dropped millions of leaflets over Germany and Japan in an effort to lower troop and civilian morale and ultimately drive the Axis forces to surrender. A better knowledge of the intricate factors that influence this worldwide struggle can be gained via studying the hidden history of World War II. Some lesser-known details, such as covert spy activities, technological developments, shed light on the unseen efforts that contributed significantly to the result of the war, but also establish the framework for the modern post-war world. Let us know in the comments what you think about the hidden history of World War II, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more captivating content on our YouTube channel.